Hi, I'm Kelly Thomas. Welcome to Ingenious Baby. Every week I'll interview leading experts to help you help your child reach their full potential so that your child can become all that they were born to be. Today, we're here with Dr. William Sears, an American pediatrician and best-selling author of more than 40 books and countless articles on nutrition and parenting. He's been a frequent guest on more than 100 television shows, such as Good Morning America, CNN, Oprah. He's the medical and parenting consultant for Baby Talk and Parenting magazines, and the pediatrician on the website parenting.com. Dr. Sears, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kelly. It's an honor to be with you.
Yes. So, you have written so many books. I think almost every mom in America is familiar with at least one of them. Is there any particular stage of development that you think is more important or more impactful than the others?
Well, I think it's really birth to 3 years, Kelly, and here's the reason. A baby's brain grows the fastest. After birth, for the first 2 to 3 years, it doubles in size in the first 2 years. So you have the greatest chance of laying down a permanent foundation. Those wires into your baby's brain. Think of your baby's brain like the greatest garden ever grown. Mm-hmm. And there are 100 billion plants in that little garden. So what do you do to help a garden grow? You feed it and you fertilize it and you keep the weeds and the pests out. The same thing in growing a baby brain. You give them smart food. You give them lots of touch. You give them lots of love. You respond to their needs in an appropriate way. And that's how you grow your baby brain.
So that brings me to another question. Since it's such an impactful time, do you think a child's IQ is malleable? Are there things that you can eat or things that you can do to help raise your child's IQ or cognitive development?
Yes, there are, Kelly. You use a wonderful term there called malleable. Now, the scientific term for that is called neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. Now, that's just a big word that means if the brain could talk, it would say, hey, man, I will change and adapt to whatever you need me to. Mm-hmm. The brain is so changeable. All the wiring is so changeable. So the term malleable, you're totally correct. Now, the best way you can do that is smart foods. Mm-hmm. Let's start with mother's milk. Wow, smartest food ever made. Mm-hmm. And I make it very simple for moms. I say, all right, feed your child a smart fat diet. And as soon as I mention the term fat, they say, oh really? I've heard all this bad stuff about fat. Wrong. A baby's brain is 60% fat. So the way I get parents to remember this is you are growing a little fat head. Mother's milk is 40 to 50% fat. And Dr. Mother Nature does not make mistakes. So the first most important group of foods to grow a smarter little baby brain and a child brain is fats. Number one, mama's milk. Then at 6 months, I have this. Let's pretend, Kelly, that you're coming into my office and you want to talk about beginning solid foods to grow a little fat head. And I'd say, okay, first food, avocados. Wow, what's different about avocados? They're the fattiest fruit on earth. Wow. So avocados at 6 months, and this will surprise your audience. At 7 months, we begin salmon. I have a big sign in my office, salmon at 7 months. And parents look at me, really? Yeah, you get a piece of wild salmon and you mush it up and you place it on your finger and you place it on baby's tongue. Now, here are the 3 magic words: shaping young tastes. Mm-hmm. Shaping young tastes, beginning at 6 months. So you shape their taste for fruits and veggies, mm-hmm. and good healthy fats like avocados and salmon. Mm-hmm. And here's another little thing we do at 6 months. I call it my sprinkles test because mm-hmm. the commonest question I get from parents is, my child won't eat vegetables.
Right.
All right,
yeah.
So we have a little We have a little veggie talk. At 6 months, we have a little veggie demonstration. I open a capsule of concentrated, ground up vegetables, lots of greens, 10 different greens, all ground up in a capsule. It's called Juice Plus. And I open the capsule and I have mom wet her finger and I pour the greens on her finger, the powder, and she places it on baby's tongue, little by little by little, and the baby shapes the baby's taste toward vegetables. And I'll explain what's going on because the brain is hard to talk about briefly, but I'm going to explain what happens. Say you put a little bit of ground up broccoli or kale or salmon or avocado on the tip of a baby's tongue, and the tongue sends a text message to the brain, and the brain says, like, bunch of Facebook friends up in the brain says, I like broccoli, I like salmon, I like avocado. And then the head brain sends a text to the gut brain that says, hey gut, coming down is really good food. You pretend you like it. And then the gut brain does like it. And the gut brain texts the head brain, says, keep eating more vegetables. It's good for you. That's what we call building in cravings at a very young age in a child.
Oh, interesting. So you don't do it through just introducing food? I mean, do you try to give them all different kinds of food, the real foods,
Yes,
and then if
you
that
try to
doesn't
give
work, just giving them something would actually change their palate to help them like food more?
Exactly. And you mentioned you mentioned the magic word there, Kelly, real food. Just serve real foods. We don't feed babies out of a box anymore. Gone are the days of rice cereal out of a box. No. Think outside the box. And one of the reasons, and this is fairly new, one of the reasons for starting real foods in children and babies, the real food diet, is called the microbiome. Now, the microbiome is just a big word for gut bugs, the normal bacteria that live in your gut, trillions of them. Now, in return for free food and a warm place to live, these bacteria do good things for your body. They make lots of natural medicines for your body. And so real food feeds the microbiome, your gut bugs, in a real good way.
So going back to, I guess, foods to avoid, are there any foods that we should absolutely avoid in the early years?
Yes. Now, I call these, look for the bad words on the label. Now, anything with a number on it, like red number 40, blue number 5, yellow number 6, anything with a number and a color on it, that is red dye. And that is blue dye. You don't want, that's artificial food. And you can bet that if it has to be artificially colored, there's a lot of other bad stuff in there. So that's number one. Secondly, high fructose corn syrup, number 2. Now, this is also new, added sugar. Coming soon to the food labels near you, beginning sometime in 2018, manufacturers will have to put on the food label grams of added sugar. Now they don't have to, so it's very complicated.
So are there any mistakes that parents think they're feeding their child something healthy, but it really isn't?
Well, yes, they get worried that their child isn't eating enough. And I hear this every day in my office. Doctor, my child is such a picky eater. Oh, my child's such a picky eater. So I wondered, if I hear that often, and when a pediatrician hears something every day, you wonder, is that normal? And lo and behold, yes, it is. So if I can show my fist, a child's tummy is the size of their fist. So what they need at each meal is a fistful of food. So like shaping young taste are 3 magic words. Another 3 words are raise a grazer. Children are born grazers. They love to nibble all day, which isn't a bad trait for we adults too.
So you're saying just giving them the option to choose for themselves will automatically make them make healthier choices?
If you only present healthy choices, Kelly,
Yeah.
That's all they have. In fact, pediatricians are getting a little more ingenious, shall we say. And we've been wimpy for a while. And now we say to moms, don't be a nutritional wimp. Don't say, oh, honey, you don't like the broccoli. Would you like me to make you some packaged mac and cheese? No, no, no. I did a little experiment in my laboratory. My laboratory is my office. Um, and I found that I call them pure moms and pure kids. Those moms who never let a morsel of anything but real food touch the lips of their precious children for at least the first 3 years. And
Yeah.
then, kids are going to be kids. They will get the junk at birthday parties in school. Well, I wonder what's different about these kids? Well, number one, they weren't as sick as often. And number two, they craved real foods because that's all they know. And then, this is interesting, when they went to their first birthday party and they got the big red velvet chocolate cake, and all that colored stuff, they would come home and say, Mommy, I have yucky tummy. Aha, that's because their tummy and their little microbiome down there and all the gut nerves had been programmed. You eat real food, you feel real good. You eat junk food, you feel real bad. That's the program we want. That's what we want to program our child to feel.
No, that's yeah. And so going back to the supplementation, so if your kids are the picky eater and aren't eating, it is safe to give them some kind of supplementation.
Yes, we do. The biggest deficiency that most families and children have is they don't eat enough seafood. Now, fortunately, here in California, we can get wild seafood all year round. So that's the biggest deficiency. So we have most of them on omegas, omega-3s is the biggest deficiency. So that's the first supplement I use. And then the second supplement I use is to make up for the deficiency of fruits and vegetables. And I have moms say, hold up your fist. Do you feed your children 10 servings, 10 fistfuls of fruits and vegetables every day? That's what they need, 10 fistfuls. They say no, so we add a fruit and vegetable supplement called Juice Plus. So omega-3s and Juice Plus are the two ones I mostly use in my office. Sometimes I use a little vitamin D, oftentimes a probiotic to help their little gut bugs to grow their gut garden. But supplements, Kelly, are just that, not instead of real food, but they simply fill in the gaps. When children aren't eating, say, how much fish they need 2 fistfuls. So if they don't get 2 fistfuls of wild salmon every week, then they need an omega-3 supplement. If they don't get 10 fistfuls of fruits and vegetables every day, then they need a fruit and vegetable supplement.
So you've been doing this for decades, working with children and food. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned in all your experience?
What I've learned, and I give this tip to parents, they will sometimes ask me, well, Dr. Bill, what is the biggest tip you can give me from what you've learned? And I said to them, parenting is a series of reactions. My child does this, what do I do? And am I doing it right? I say, whenever your child does this, they throw a tantrum or something like that, you first click into your mommy brain and say, get behind the eyes of your child and say, if I were my child, if I were Susie, how would I want my mother or my father to react? If I were my child, how would I want my mother or father to react? And you'll always get it right.
So what is the most important thing you want a new mom to know?
The earlier you start, the better. Now, you can make up for bad nutritional habits at any time. But we look at parenting, Kelly, as the best long-term investment you can have. You put your time in early on, and you're going to sleep a lot better later on. And I've noticed this in my practice over the years. Like I say, I use my practice as a laboratory. And those babies who are fed real food, those babies and children who are carried and touched a lot, those babies whose cries are answered appropriately, those babies who are given lots of eye contact and high-touch parenting, they turn out with one big special quality, and that is empathy, the capacity to care. That's what you're building in that growing brain. You're building their capacity to care center. And there is a real thing in a brain, in an adult brain and a child brain, called the empathy center or compassion center. Mm-hmm. That's what good, compassionate parenting helps your child become compassionate. And our number one problem in our world today is lack of compassion.
Yeah.
Kids who don't care, the neighborhood bully, the school bully. You know, I have never, ever seen an attachment-parented child become a school bully. So that's what you do with your long-term investment. You grow that compassion center. You turn out a compassionate child.
I agree. I think one of the best investments we can make is in our children. And I'm so honored to have you here to talk to you about all your wealth of knowledge and sharing it with all the new moms. And it was a real honor to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And I get programs like this give me what I call the helper's high. That's that priceless feeling we doctors get by perhaps a listener out there, a new mom, a new dad, or any age, has changed the way they parent for the better because of the program you and I did today. So you and I both have a very high dose of a helper's high.
If you know someone who'd be a great fit for the show, come on over to ingeniousbaby.com and share your tips and story ideas. You are your baby's first and best teacher.